Kansas season comes to an abrupt halt with a 64-59 loss to Villanova in the South Region Final. It'll be the Wildcats going on to the Final Four and not the Jayhawks. And Jesse Newell, what went wrong tonight for Kansas?
I just think offensively, the other games in the tournament, they kept playing defense to find that answer offensively, to keep finding it. And tonight they just never found it. Villanova's pressure defense really bothered Kansas a lot. I think they never really got comfortable even with the open shots that they had. And then those first half turnovers were costly. And for once, this team didn't make the big plays down the stretch and, had a couple key turnovers down the stretch. Frank Mason had one late that ended up costing KU. But I do also want to say, I think that Villanova had a point where it could crack and didn't. So credit to Villanova, but a disappointing loss for Kansas, too.
Yeah, the Jayhawks regained the lead in the second half after falling behind by 9 in the first half, 7 at halftime. Kansas went back up, 40-36, and couldn't maintain it. I think the one player that maybe we're going to focus on, Vahe, I know you're writing about him for the print editions of the Star, is Perry Ellis. What a tough way for him to end his career.
Yeah, really tough, but also kind of symbolic of the night for Kansas. He misses that first shot of the game. It was not as contested as some of the other shots against him, and then he had a charge on the next possession, and I think maybe he was a little flustered at that point, but there was also a mechanical problem of some sort with how much they were actually getting him the ball, and Villanova always had extra attention on him. I know Jay Wright said that they weren't double teaming the whole time, but they were doing something else, and then I thought we thought this as Sam and I were sitting together, maybe the story's about to take a turn here, and he makes that basket 37-36, puts them ahead. Maybe it's going to be for good. And as you noted, Blair, they get up 45-40 and a 10-0 run by Villanova, and Kansas didn't have a counterpunch. So too bad for Perry, a guy who had a really great career at Kansas, and he's not going to have this last thing on his resume.
Right, and I thought his game had elevated really over the last few. Certainly his senior year and during this 17-game winning streak that Kansas was on, I thought his star was never brighter than it had been, averaging 23 points in the tournament. So, Sam, we started this off by saying an abrupt end to the Kansas season. Seems like we say that kind of often with Kansas when it comes to the tournament. I don't know if this one qualifies as it's a crushing loss for Kansas for sure. It's not in the Final Four, but it wasn't. It's not a 2 losing to a 10 seed, which it has been.
Right.
It's a 1 losing to a 2. Still, I think the disappointment level is going to be high for them.
For sure. I mean, it's not like the VCU game. It's not, if you want to go way back, the Bucknell and Bradley stuff. Like the in the last few years, right? Like 3 years ago, it was the Elijah Johnson meltdown against Michigan. 2 years ago, it's Andrew Wiggins, the number 1 pick in the draft, getting 4 points against Stanford when they needed more. Last year, it was just a roster-wide back down against Wichita State, who was just much tougher. They just got beat tonight, I thought. Perry Ellis is gonna wear a lot of this, and he needs to have more than 5 points as the lowest scoring total of the season. But the whole thing that we've been talking about all year is how they don't have like one guy that they rely on, one go-to scorer. And I did think that Villanova put a lot of attention on Perry, especially in physical attention that Perry doesn't play well against. But it opened up a ton of good looks on the outside, and those guys didn't knock it down. Wayne Selden was 0 for 6. I think they were 6 of 22 as a team on three-pointers. So, Perry's going to wear a lot of it, but this was a team loss. They just got beat.
They didn't shoot well, but I thought the turnovers were as big a problem for them tonight. They had 16, 8 in that 6-minute stretch in the first half that I thought changed the tone of the game. Hey, Jesse, what I know we'll talk about this a lot over the next few days, but just looking forward to Kansas. What who's going, who's staying? What do you think is going to happen in the next few weeks for Kansas in terms of personnel movement?
Yeah, well, you look at the roster, it's kind of a weird year this year because you can declare for the draft, but even if you declare, you can pull your name back. So I'd expect a lot of these names to declare, see if they're taken for the NBA Combine, and then if they are, maybe leave. I'd expect Wayne Selden to go. I'd expect Sheck Diallo to go. Carlton Bragg's maybe one on the fence. You would expect him maybe to come back, but depending on where he shows at the Combine, this is one of the worst drafts ever. He might not be. But look out for both Josh Jackson, Thon Maker, 2 of the top recruits left in the nation. Josh Jackson, number 1 overall, both considering Kansas, both seem to be sort of heavy lean, or not heavy leans, but leans towards Kansas at this point. They could restock in a hurry.
Okay, so there it is from Louisville. It'll be Villanova and Oklahoma. Buddy Hield led Oklahoma in the national semifinal, and of course the other 2 regions will be settled on Sunday. For Sam Mellinger, Jesse Newell, and Vahe Gregorian, I'm Blair Kerkhoff. Thanks for watching. read the coverage of the NCAA tournament in the print editions of the Kansas City Star and online at kansascity.com.